For this class, we're going to be using a number of Google services, so everyone is going to need a Google account. Now, if you have Gmail, you already have a Google account. For those of you who don't have a Google account, just click the Sign In button, and then click Create Account for myself, and create your Google account. Once you're logged into Google, click the application icon in the top right-hand corner. You'll see all of the applications that you can use with your Google account. The two applications that we're concerned with in this video are Google Drive and, scrolling all the way down to the bottom, Google Collaboratory. All right, let's take a quick look at Google Drive. Google Drive is a cloud-based storage service where you can store all of your images, documents, whatever. On the left-hand side, you can open My Drive and see all of your folders. All right, let's click the application icon again and go to Google Colab. When we first open Colab, we're going to see a list of all of our recent Colab notebooks. We can also see notebooks that we've stored on Google Drive. And there's some examples that, if you have time, I recommend you step through. For now, just cancel. Now we're looking at the default What is Collaboratory notebook. This notebook is just an introduction of how to use Google Colab. Pay special attention to this top right-hand corner. Currently it says Connect. This means I'm not currently connected to a runtime. So I'll click Connect. Colab will allocate and then initialize my new runtime. Once I have a runtime, I'll see the RAM and disk indicators. This shows me how much memory and how much disk space I have in my current runtime. Let's look at runtime in the menu. If we click Restart Runtime, and then Yes, in the top right-hand corner you'll see Restarting, Initializing, and finally RAM and disk. This means that we've restarted the runtime and are connected. Let's look at that again. Restart runtime. Notice here it says runtime state including all local variables will be lost. This means that we're getting a fresh runtime if we restart. Click Yes. It initializes, connects, and then we see the RAM and disk indicators. Let's go back to the runtime menu, and this time we're going to look at Change Runtime Type. Under Hardware Accelerator, you'll see that it's currently set to None. Now for this class, most of the work we're going to be doing is going to require a GPU, a graphical processing unit. So we want to make sure that our notebook settings hardware accelerator is always set to GPU. So select GPU and then click Save. Notice that in the right-hand corner it says Reconnect. I need to reconnect to the new runtime with the GPU processor. So I'll click Reconnect. And now we have a new runtime with RAM and disk. And if we go into Change Runtime Type, it should say that we have a GPU, and it does. So we can just click Cancel. The next thing I want you to notice is the table of contents in this notebook. A notebook is kind of like a step-by-step recipe for doing things. And the table of contents is a handy guide of what steps are involved in this notebook. Let's look at the Getting Started section. In this section, you'll see two code cells. This first code cell says seconds in a day is equal to 24 times 60 times 60. And then it outputs the value of seconds in a day. So let's run the cell. And it outputs the value of 86,400, the number of seconds in a day. All right, going to the next cell, it says seconds in a week is equal to 7 times seconds in a day. Now this is interesting because seconds in a day was a value that we calculated in the previous cell. So we're using the value from the variable seconds in a day in the next cell to calculate seconds in a week. Let's run it. All right, so we've just calculated the number of seconds in a week. Now as a demonstration, I want to go to Runtime and restart the runtime. Notice that we're going to lose all local variables. Click Yes. Okay, we have a new runtime. Let's rerun this second cell and see what happens. Ooh, there's a problem. It says name error. The name seconds in a day is not defined. Why is that? Well, when we restarted the runtime, we lost all of our local variables. So to fix this problem, let's go back up to the previous cell, run it, and now seconds in a day is defined. So rerunning the second cell, we get the correct answer again. Next, I want to show you the file browser. On the left-hand side, you'll see the file browser icon. These are all the files in our local runtime. The sample data folder is just a default folder that's installed every time we open Colab. We can just ignore it. Above our files, you'll see the Google Drive icon. Let's click that. Here we see a code cell that says run this cell to mount your Google Drive. Okay, let's run the cell. For security purposes, it's asking us to visit this URL. So let's click on that. A new tab displays. I select my account and allow. I copy the security code by clicking the copy icon. Close this window, and back in Colab, paste the security code into this input field. Then press enter. All right, now we've mounted our Google Drive within Colab. So if I go back to Files and click the refresh button, I'll see a folder called Drive. And within that folder is my drive. This is my Google Drive. It's also important to notice the path of the drive folder. It's /content/drive. In the file browser, I can click this icon to move up a directory. Now you see all of the files that have been installed in this runtime. And all of our data is in the content folder. So it's important to note that always we're working within the content folder. Now imagine we want to save a copy of this notebook. Go to File, and then Save a Copy in Drive. I've just created a copy of this notebook in my drive, and it's been opened in a new browser tab. Oops, I wasn't connected to a runtime and there were no files, so let's connect to the runtime. All right, we're connected to a runtime, and we see the sample data default directory. Let's connect to Google Drive again. We're going to have to reauthorize by clicking the URL, choose the account, click Allow, copy the security code, paste and enter. All right, now we've mounted our Google Drive. Refresh the folder, Drive, My Drive, Colab Notebooks. This is where all of our Colab notebooks are saved. And within this folder, you'll see the copy that I just made of this notebook. It's really important to keep in mind that when the runtime is recycled or trashed, that I'm going to lose all of my local data within this runtime, unless I store files in my Google Drive. Now, besides using files that are directly within my Google Drive, I can also drop files directly into the Colab notebook. So I'll open my files, select an image that I want to work with, and then drag it into the Files section of the notebook. Take note of this reminder that all of the uploaded files are going to be deleted when the runtime is recycled. Okay, now we can see my image file is being uploaded. And then it appears within my files. If I double click on the file name, I'll be able to see a preview of the image on the right-hand side. All right, now what if I decide I don't want to lose this image file when the runtime is recycled? Well, I can just open my drive and open a folder, and then drag and drop this image into my folder. Now, if I go to my Google Drive and look at that folder, let's get it refreshed. Okay, there's the image I uploaded. What I hope you take away from this is that my Google Colab session is temporary. And the best way to prevent myself from losing important files is to store them in my Google Drive. Okay, say we're finished working in Google Colab. We can just close the browser window and eventually our runtime is going to be recycled. Or we can click Runtime in the menu and then Manage Sessions. This window shows me all active sessions that I have in Colab. I actually have 2 GPU sessions running. So let me just terminate them all. Now in the top right-hand corner, instead of seeing the RAM and disk, I see Reconnect, which means that I'm not currently connected to a runtime. I hope from this video you'll have a basic understanding of the Google services that we'll be using, the basics of how to use Google Colab, and how to mount Google Drive within Colab so that you can save files. Thanks.